fourth speaker is Renee from the New Zealand. Renee is currently the National Vice President of the New Zealand section and has served as the National Coordinator of the TOS New Zealand for the past 18 years. An active worker for the Society since first joining in 1998 in many different capacities, locally at Auckland branch and nationally, including speaking, events, and administration. Renee is passionate about weaving the ancient wisdom teachings into everyday life and has a special interest in seeing the teachings presented in a more practical and usable way so as to make theosophy interesting, relevant, and transforming for all who touch its shores. Today, Renee provides a presentation entitled The Pilgrimage Home.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here and I bring greetings from New Zealand. My presentation today is called The Pilgrimage Home. I opened this little old book recently and it was a gift to the national section here, and there was an inscription inside that read, "To Kathleen with my love," and it was followed by a few lines of an Ella Wheeler Wilcox poem, "The Winds of Fate." And the words in this one stanza are very appropriate for this presentation. One ship goes east and another one goes west. In the self-same wind that blows, 'tis the set of the sail and not the gale that determines the way she goes. So I have an inquiry for this presentation. It is, why is it important that we set the course for home? These past 18 months, with the pandemic raging around us, we have all been blown one way or the other. Seems to have thrown us off course. Or has it? I wonder if we were ever really on course. Tested most certainly in ways that we probably, any of us, ever imagined. Enduring the effects, including lockdowns, separation from our family and friends, disruptions in jobs, schooling, and at times what feels like a severance really from our hopes and our dreams. And I would say particularly so for the young, the untraveled, and those planning to head off on their next adventure. We're discovering, all of us, new ways of connecting, whether on mobile phone apps or computers, building closer connections with those around us, and if we choose to nourish the inner connection that separates us from our true self. I want to emphasize here, it is a choice, this last one, and to exemplify this is a beautiful quote from H.K. Challoner. Never say that you have no time to cultivate one of the most precious of gifts, this ability to draw aside and renew your spirit through contact with that stream of power which can always bring tranquility and strength, even in the midst of the most violent onslaughts. These times are that our choices as to what we do and how we act are in our hands, our own. This is where the 3 P's come into play: perception, principles, practice. So I'll talk a little bit about each one. We don't have a lot of time. Perception. How do we see things? Do we see them narrow in view, as if we've got blinkers on? Or do we have a universal setting as a backdrop to our thoughts and actions? And it brings up, if we want to change, are we observant to the many biases of the mind? How do we cultivate that understanding of unity or oneness, that oneness of all life? Principles. We're always chatting about the grand ideas or concepts of theosophy, but the key is putting these into practice as a foundation How do they look in practice? For example, death. How do we see death? Do we see it as just the end of this life? There's only one life? Or is it part of a continuum? Death being change at that point. And we can go into each of the concepts and bring a universal foundation or a universal setting to each of these contexts, from karma and reincarnation as mechanisms or tools for the growth of the soul, and each concept looking at how you see that in your life. Lastly, practice, our daily practice. This is essential to be able to gain that stable center, that stable mind that the sages speak of. We don't have time to go further into these, but this is something to study, to observe, and to work on, each of us. There are different ways to look at things. I'll share a story here to make real what I want to say. And this story is quite well known. It's on the net. It's about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, that they went on a camping trip. After a good meal and a bottle of wine, they laid down in their tent for the night and went to sleep. Some hours later, Holmes awoke and nudged his faithful friend awake. "Watson, look up at the sky and tell me what you see." Watson replied, "I see millions and millions of stars." "What does that tell you?" Holmes questioned. Watson pondered for a minute. "Astronomically, it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Astrologically, I observe that Saturn is in Leo. Chronologically, I deduce that the time is approximately 3:15. Theologically, I can see that God is all-powerful and that we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, I suspect that we will have a beautiful day tomorrow." "What does it tell you, Holmes?" Holmes was silent for a minute and then spoke. "Watson, you ass, someone has stolen our tent." Often, we do not see the important. We miss it. What is right in front of us. We're off on a tangent of one type or another until we are pulled up somehow with any number of things. But health itself is often one of the big ones. Then we drop all that is not important, just like a hot cake. We just let it go and we concentrate on what is in front of us. Our health, this body. Now that has our attention. This is what is important at this time. Not necessarily what is urgent, but what is important. Why does it take something like that for us to turn our attention, for the soul to get a look in? Often people turn to the TS at this time, or perhaps a similar group, when they are facing something big. Why wait till then? It's quite a good question. Why do we wait? Something came on the internet the other day while I was writing this, and it was from A Tale of Two Cities, and I thought it was quite appropriate as well. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. And then it goes on. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. This is life right now. Life has our attention in a really big way. And what seems like extreme polarities is all there for us to see. This is when we feel like jumping ship, when we ask some of life's big questions. Who am I? And what is my purpose? A time to understand who we truly are. A time to understand our true nature our true self, for the purpose of which we came to experience here on earth. This time could be considered the opportunity of a lifetime in terms of growth, to be able to turn our attention to true or soul purpose, to be still, listen gently, judge kindly, breathe consciously, let go, and be open to the discovery of something deeper within our own being, the light hidden within our own heart, the center of our being. We have possibilities of finding out experientially ourselves, of knowing oneself, of knowing ourselves. Who are you? Why are you here? The true pearls of the ancient wisdom hidden until we discover and uncover them in the heart of our own being. And from sacred text, these pearls are closer than breathing, closer than hands and feet. This is what we are seeking. In the last phase of H.P. Blavatsky's life, she emphasized in those last few years the importance of going inward. She knew where the real work was, where our duty to the whole, to humanity, lay as individuals. There was this urgency to make this message very clear. So much time before had been spent in bringing through the teachings in terms of laws and facts, and this was required as a foundation for the modern theosophical movement, but something to build upon. Then the final phase was all about the individual and the journey of discovery, with the emphasis on the ethical aspect of her teachings, self-discipline, meditation, and the journey home. And she gave a reason for that too. She said the earlier was to relate wholly to the material and evanescent part or temporary part of us as the septenary human being. But the ethics sink into and take hold of the real being, the soul, more permanent part of us, the enduring aspect. She suggested putting our energies into this area. We will all benefit from practices and experiences that will promote a deeper connection with our own center of being, and this will last beyond this one life. In this external or phenomenal world of social engagements, entertainment, chatter, so much going on, reminded me of a little quote at the beginning of The Secret Doctrine, I think in the introduction. Error runs down an inclined plane, while truth has to laboriously climb its way uphill. We are being asked to climb that hill. We are being asked to look beneath the surface, beneath the noise, beyond the external distractions and illusions. But only we can do that. This is the choice that lies before us, the setting of our sail. There's a beautiful quote from American poet and artist Pamela Vull-Starr. She says, "Reach high, for stars lie hidden in your soul. Dream deep, for every dream precedes the goal." Our responsibility is to turn down the volume of our life to some degree, to not buy into the fear that is rampant, distorted facts, misinformation, etc., the noise that is so loud at this time. Turn that down and be present to spirit. One of the masters gives a really good definition of spirit, and he said it will define as well as any other term. And he says it's inflowing force. So for that inflowing force to come through, we need to make a little bit of space, okay? Spirit speaks in whispers. symbols, dreams. We are like the jail keeper. We are the key to the prison of our own making and the unlocking of it. The change we seek is in our heart. Change is in the hearts of people. As individuals, we can free ourselves of our own self-defeating beliefs, tendencies, and regrets just by being present to what is, by observing, noticing, and being mindful. In their place, possibilities arise, feelings of wholeness, connectedness, acceptance, forgiveness, and peace. Master Kutumi, he spoke about that peace when he said, "It is upon the serene and placid surface of the unruffled mind that visions gathered from the invisible find a representation in the visible world." The unruffled mind, that is who we are. Let's imagine that. Let's just for a moment close our eyes, releasing and letting go those things that burden the soul and prevent us from realizing that inner connection, that deeper part of our being. Let's just take a moment. As a result, we might find healing. What would it take for us to activate our inner life and grow in understanding? Having an active inner life, a great goal, that is what is real. It is a wisdom that we each grow and discover for ourselves. This is what Theosophy is. We all have two aspects of our being, the outer and the inner, and often the inner side is very neglected, like a bird at sea trying to find a place to rest her feet. I would like to share from a poem a little stanza. Two natures are within each human being. One is a child of the clear light of day. In it is nothing dark, but all seeing. There is all sunshine, nothing hid away. Its innermost thy eye may penetrate. There is no secret and no mystery. In it rule wisdom, justice, love, faith. Spotless as crystal is its purity. The other is a being born of night, filled with dark clouds that change and change again. It baffles reason and ignores the light. It is a stranger in its own domain. Intangibly, it fills our daily life with mocking goblins, its discordant reign, begetting errors and discordant strife, tangling the threads and spoiling the design. HPB used to say Theosophy has different features, and she proposes to consider Theosophy under all its aspects. And it is to this deep aspect of Theosophy that I speak today. Theosophy is life-changing when applied. It is huge for those seeking knowledge, and it is knowledge of the soul. When we discover Theosophy, it is an impulse from the soul. And HPB, she was the messenger of the great ones to bring this message to humanity. The first and primary principle, universal brotherhood or kinship. And this universal kinship is a deep unity within the heart of all beings. If I remember rightly, from the Bhagavad Gita, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. And connecting with this reality is our true purpose, our spiritual awakening, the awakening of the human heart. In our practice, we are stimulating this awakening through the practices that promote a deeper connection, ethics, self-discipline, meditation, and their practice penetrates to the inner reaches of the soul to endure in essence and not something that is fleeting. The seeds we plant today come to fruition over the course of our lifetime and lifetimes to come. We are only limited by our ability to comprehend. In awakening a deeper aspect within ourselves, we expand our consciousness in the powers of understanding. Awakening the light within the human heart, this is the soul. We each have an active, conscious part to play in the journey of the soul because this is who we are. Thank you.